Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Cat Shorts. Today's question, you know what's great? Food. I sure like it. Find out more in this week's episode. Grab your Martin Luther hat. Let's get to some conversation. We've been working our way in this series through the Lord's Prayer. And at the middle of it, we start talking about what God's will in the world actually looks like. Sometimes we forget that there's like a logical connection between the ideas in the Lord's Prayer. When I was a kid, I just sort of like memorized the lines as though they were all just sort of random thoughts Jesus plopped together. But really, there's a flow of thought. We spent the opening parts of the prayer saying, God, we pray that your reign would happen and not my will, that your will would be done and that I would not work in spite of what you're up to in the world. And then Jesus sort of elaborates, well, what does it look like for God's will to be done? And the next two parts of the prayer are sort of examples, pictures of what it looks like where God's will is done. And those things are food for everybody and forgiveness all around. The next line goes, give us this day our daily bread, right? So we're praying, dear God, give us our daily bread. And of course, that's not just limited to, baked grain products, but whatever our needs are for daily life. Our older brother in the faith, Martin Luther, says that daily bread, of course, isn't just literal bread, but all the things we need for life that include food and shelter and water, but also things like air to breathe, and good farming for the people who make the food that we eat, and health for their livestock, and good weather for the fields out there, and a healthy community and economy that can provide all the things that I need. And in turn, it recognizes I'm part of the answer for somebody else's prayer for good bread, for daily bread. There are things that I do that contribute for the well-being of other people as well. For us to pray, give us today our daily bread, is always in the plural. It's always in community. Not just, dear God, give stuff to me and who cares about anybody else, but to recognize what God gives for me is only possible because God is doing good things for other people around me. Some people I know whose farms and whose dairies I can picture, and people who I will never meet, but who do things that help make my life possible. And in turn, there are ways that I'm called to be a source of sustenance and good things that bless and benefit other people as well. That's the first really important idea about praying for our daily bread, to recognize it's never in the singular. It's never give me what I want, but give us what we need for life. And second of all, our older brother in the faith, Martin Luther, latches on to something that Jesus said, which is that God has a way of giving good things even to stinkers. So, well, Jesus' word isn't stinkers, but both Martin Luther and Jesus will raise the stakes and say God even gives good things to evil people. God gives things to us when we are rotten and no good and when we are crooks, even without our asking. And this is that Tinkerbell principle again. That God's way isn't to say, oh, you've been well behaved, you get a goldfish cracker. Oh, you've been badly behaved, nothing for you. And that God's way also isn't to say, oh, you prayed for it, you get the cracker. Oh, you didn't pray, you didn't get it. Instead, Luther says, God gives daily bread, God gives daily provision for all of creation, for all of us, including stinkers, including us when we are at our worst and rottenest. God provides good things because God's economy is not based on our goodness or badness, but on God's generosity. And so, God has made a world where, like Jesus says, the sun shines on the good and on the bad. God gives rain, which is a good gift for the wicked and for the good as well, for the just and the unjust alike. When Jesus says that, he's not saying, well, good stuff and bad stuff happen to everybody. He's saying, look, God keeps giving good gifts all around, not just to the well-behaved or those who are prayerful and pious, but to you and to me and to everybody in our good moments and our bad moments, and people who even want to have nothing to do with God. God continues to be good and generous and gracious to them. So, Tinkerbell principle time. We've said all along in the Lord's Prayer that God ain't Tinkerbell, that God isn't sitting up in heaven going, oh, if 10 people pray, if enough people pray or clap hard enough or believe hard enough, then I'll give them daily bread. But in fact, God gives good things all around. The question when we pray is whether we would realize what it is God is giving to us and whether God can work through me. God is willing to work through me to be a source of good things, of daily bread and provision for other people as well. It's about opening up our eyes to see how God is using us And when we pray, "Dear God, give me our daily bread," it's not bringing new information to God's awareness. It's not that God's sitting up in heaven somewhere and going, "Oh, I forgot to feed the humans," like some 5-year-old who forgets to feed the pet goldfish. Instead, God already knows our needs and is providing for us beyond even what we're aware of all the time, even without our asking. That changes everything. So that when I pray, "Dear God, give us today our daily bread," it's less about giving God a new order through the heavenly drive-through. "Dear God, here's what I want today, give me this." But instead, it's about recognizing I'm asking not just for God to take care of me, but for God to take care of all of this creation that God's already doing all the time. That changes me and my heart when I'm sort of shriveled up and self-centered and focused only on me and my wants. It has a way of opening things up, so I realize there's enough to go around for everybody, for me and for my neighbor and for people I haven't met, for well-behaved people, for rottenly behaved people, for saints, for sinners, for stinkers, all of us. God's vision, God's will, God's kingdom means everybody gets to eat. So join us next time for more Cat Shorts.